She walked into the bank like any other customer, no entourage, no branded car, no name tag, clipboard, or loud greetings announcing her presence. Just a woman in her mid-40s wearing a navy blouse and gray slacks, car keys in one hand, a simple leather wallet in the other. No one gave her a second glance when she entered the Monarch Federal branch off Speedway Boulevard in Tucson, Arizona. And that was exactly how she wanted it. Kendra Braxton had come alone and unannounced, dressed simply and without fanfare. Sometimes the best way to understand how your organization really operates is to step inside unnoticed. The lobby was quiet. Fluorescent lights hummed softly overhead. A few customers sat in cushioned chairs by the windows, eyes on their phones or filling out forms. Kendra stood calmly behind a man in a neon green landscaping uniform who was casually joking with one of the tellers. When it was her turn, she stepped forward with a polite, professional smile. "Good morning. I'd like to make a withdrawal from my personal account." The teller, a young woman named Sherry, smiled back. "Sure thing. I'll just need your ID and account number." Kendra handed both over without hesitation. But before Sherry could begin the transaction, the branch manager emerged from his glass-walled office. Stephen Aldridge, mid-50s, wire-framed glasses, burgundy tie. The kind of smile that seemed rehearsed. He glanced at the ID, then at Kendra, and then back at the ID again. "I'm sorry," he interrupted, stepping in front of Sherry. "We won't be able to process this withdrawal today." Kendra's brow furrowed. "I'm not sure I understand." "Is there a problem with my account?" Stephen gave a dry chuckle. "Let's just say we've had a few incidents lately. People trying to impersonate account holders. It's a matter of policy." Kendra tried to remain composed. "I can provide additional verification if needed. My account is in good standing." But Stephen didn't ask for anything else. He leaned on the counter, voice laced with condescension. "No offense, but this kind of thing happens more than you think. And honestly, the ID doesn't really look like you." Kendra tilted her head slightly, choosing her words carefully. "It is me. I'm Kendra Braxton. I'm the CEO of Monarch Federal." There was a quiet shuffle behind her as someone in line shifted. Sherry froze at her terminal. Stephen, however, chuckled again. "Ma'am, let's not waste each other's time. If you want to come back with proper documents or better yet, set an appointment, someone can help you then." Kendra looked directly at him. "Stephen, right?" He gave a curt nod. She asked, calm but firm, "Did you even check the account in the system before coming over here?" Stephen folded his arms. "I don't need to verify every single ID to know when something's off." And that was it. Not the refusal, not the dismissive attitude. It was the phrase "feels off," as though her very presence triggered suspicion. That was the moment something shifted in her. This was the woman who had led Monarch Federal through to major mergers. She had fended off a hostile takeover and rebuilt the bank's public image. And yet, in this moment, in this lobby, she was being treated like an imposter by one of her own employees. An employee who had not even bothered to check the system. Her expression did not change, but her grip on her phone tightened. "Stephen," she said in an even tone, "I suggest you check the account right now before making assumptions." Instead, he turned to Sherry without acknowledging her words. "Can you handle this?" "I have calls to return," he muttered, already walking away. But just before he could vanish behind the glass door, Kendra calmly took out her phone. Not to raise her voice, not to make a scene, just one call. What followed would shift the energy of the entire branch. Stephen's office door clicked shut, but the lobby did not relax. Sherry's eyes darted back and forth nervously between her screen and Kendra. The other customers suddenly became very still, pretending not to watch, yet clearly listening. Kendra stood silently for a moment. Then she took one step back from the counter, phone still in hand. Her presence was commanding without her saying a word. What happened next would leave no one in that branch wondering who she was ever again. "Do not make that call just yet, Sherry," Kendra said softly. "Take another look at the name on that ID." Sherry glanced down, then looked back up nervously. "Yes, Mum, Kendra Braxton." Kendra offered a small, reassuring smile. "Now go ahead and enter that name into the account system. Tell me what comes up." Sherry's fingers moved cautiously across the keyboard. A few seconds passed. Then her eyes widened, and her voice caught slightly. It shows an executive profile. "Kendra Braxton," Chief Executive Officer. She broke off, glancing uneasily toward the glass-walled office. You did not know I was coming, Kendra said gently, and I wanted it that way. But now that you have confirmed everything matches, is there anything else you need from me? Before Sherry could respond, the office door creaked open. Stephen emerged again, this time holding a clipboard he clearly did not need. Is there still a problem here? He asked curtly, his eyes flicking between them. Kendra did not raise her voice. Sherry verified my account. Everything is in order. You can go ahead with the withdrawal. Stephen sighed in frustration. Look, lady. Miss Braxton, Sherry interrupted suddenly. Her voice was small but steady. Stephen blinked. I just checked the account, Sherry said. It confirms who she is. She is our chief executive officer. Stephen's expression faltered, then hardened. So now we just accept anyone's word, let people play make-believe. He turned back to Kendra, eyes narrowing. You show up with no staff, no notice, dressed like it's a Saturday errand, and I'm supposed to believe you're running this place. A heavy silence filled the room. Even the man in the landscaping shirt had put his phone away. Kendra met Stephen's stare with a measured calm, the kind you reserve for figures on a spreadsheet that don't quite line up. I wasn't aware I needed to pass a fashion check to access my own money, she replied coolly. This isn't about your clothes, Stephen snapped. It's about following protocol. No, Kendra said. It's about how you didn't follow protocol. You refused to verify my identity. You dismissed valid documentation. And you spoke to me with sarcasm and suspicion before even checking the system. You're telling me how to do my job now. I'm asking if you're capable of doing it, she said evenly. Stephen scoffed and turned toward the staff. Can someone escort this woman out before she makes a bigger scene? Sherry flinched. Another employee, a man in his 30s named Corey, stood from his desk but didn't move. He stared at Kendra now, brows knitting together as he studied her face. Wait, Corey muttered. I know who she is. Kendra Braxton, she spoke at the ethics conference in Phoenix last year. That's her. Stephen didn't react at first. He blinked, slow and disbelieving, as the room seemed to shift around him. Kendra took a single step forward. Her voice didn't rise, but it carried weight now. I gave that speech because I believe leaders set the tone for how institutions treat people. And you've made it very clear how you see me. Stephen opened his mouth, but Kendra lifted a hand. We're done here. You had the opportunity to act with professionalism. You chose the opposite. She pressed a button on her phone and lifted it to her ear. 1 ring. 2. Lorna, patch me through to HR. Yes, the Speedway location. Thank you. Then she ended the call. Stephen watched her from his doorway, arms folded, still trying to act unaffected. But the atmosphere had shifted. The employees felt it. The customers felt it. Only Stephen seemed unaware of how quickly the situation was unraveling. Kendra didn't move far. She remained near the teller's counter, calm and composed, eyes focused on the branch office. There was no shouting, no show of power, just a charged stillness that filled the room like a thundercloud. She could have unleashed her authority, had every reason to. But that wasn't her way, not today. Instead, her thoughts wandered to her early days at Monarch Federal. One of her first visits as a new regional director, young, black, suited up, full of ambition. She'd walked into a branch in Albuquerque only to be asked if she was lost. She'd laughed it off then. She wasn't laughing now. A soft chime broke her reflection. An incoming call. She answered. Yes. I'm still here. No, he doesn't know yet. I can wait. Stephen had returned to his office, but this time he left the door cracked open. He watched her from behind it, arms crossed, still wearing a smug expression, still convinced it was all a bluff. Corey leaned over and whispered something to Sherry, who nodded slowly. An older woman seated nearby, purse on her lap and a checkbook in hand, leaned toward Kendra. You all right, honey? She said gently. That man was way out of line. Kendra offered a soft smile. Thank you. I've got it under control. The call clicked through. Kendra. It's Marlene from HR. I've looped in the regional VP. Good. I'm at the Tucson Speedway branch. The manager here denied my withdrawal, dismissed my ID, and treated me like a stranger in front of the entire room. A pause on the line. Then, Marlene asked, Did you tell him who you were? Twice, Kendra said flatly. The tone on the other end shifted, calm giving way to chill precision. Understood. Give us 3 minutes. Kendra ended the call and took a long breath before turning back to the room. Sherry cleared her throat and tried to steady her hands. Ms. Braxton, would you still like to complete your withdrawal? Kendra looked at her with a kind expression. She couldn't be more than 22, just trying to get through the day. No, thank you, Kendra said gently. You handled yourself well. Sherry blinked, both relieved and regretful. I wasn't sure what to do. You trusted your training, Kendra said. That's what matters. And when things didn't make sense, you stayed curious. He responded with control. That's the difference. A moment later, Stephen returned, slower this time, still gripping his clipboard like a shield. He hadn't been expecting backup to arrive so quickly. Kendra met his eyes without flinching. They're on their way, she said quietly. He chuckled dryly. If you really are who you say you are, there were better ways to handle this. A heads up, some documentation. Instead, you walk in like you're setting me up. That's the thing, Kendra replied. I didn't have to set anything up. You did that all by yourself. Stephen frowned, confused. He didn't recognize the insult until it was too late. Then the branch phone rang. Everyone heard it. Corey answered. Monarch Federal, Speedway branch. Yes, one moment. He turned to Stephen. It's for you? Stephen took the receiver slowly, as if it might explode in his hand. This is Stephen Aldridge, he said, trying to sound steady. Yes, she's still here. His face changed. Understood. He hung up and walked stiffly into the middle of the lobby, looking around like he'd just noticed every pair of eyes watching him. Ms. Braxton, he said, may I have a word with you in private? Kendra didn't move. You already had your chance. For the first time, Stephen seemed to realize just how little control he had. He stood there, clipboard pressed tight to his chest, grasping for something steady. But it was too late. Look, he began, maybe things got a little out of hand. It's been a rough morning. Stop, Kendra said. The word cut clean through the air. The room froze. Sherry stared hard at her screen. Corey didn't even pretend to look busy. The customers sat still, all attention on the woman in the navy blouse who had yet to raise her voice but now held the entire branch in her grip. I don't want excuses, Kendra said. I want accountability. Stephen flinched like she'd slapped him. You're seriously blaming me for following security protocol? No, she replied calmly. I'm holding you responsible for ignoring it. She took one step closer. You didn't verify my ID. You ignored system confirmation. You made it personal. You didn't ask questions, you just made assumptions. Based on how I looked, how I spoke, what I wore. That's not just unprofessional, it's reckless. She paused. You work in finance, Stephen. You don't get to lead with bias. Just then, the front doors swung open. 2 people walked in, both in dark blue suits. One was Marlene from HR. The other, a tall man with a regional badge clipped to his blazer, wasn't here for small talk. The man with the sharp glasses and precision-cut haircut was Roland Pierce, the bank's regional VP. He didn't hesitate. With purpose in every step, he walked past the other employees and customers, heading straight for Kendra. Kendra, he greeted with a curt nod. Roland, she replied, her voice calm but edged like a blade. Thanks for coming quickly. He turned to Stephen. Let's talk in your office. Stephen blinked, caught off guard. Wait, what? I didn't even know she was coming. She gave no notice. That's not the point, Roland said flatly. Stephen turned toward Marlene for support, but she was already shaking her head. We've reviewed the branch's live security feed, she said. Audio and video. It's all very clear. I was doing my job, Stephen protested, his voice rising. You can't just... You're not being terminated because she's the CEO, Marlene interrupted firmly. You're being terminated because you ignored protocol, disrespected a customer, and created a hostile environment for both clients and your own team. Stephen stood there stunned. Kendra finally stepped forward. I could have fired you the moment I walked back in, but I wanted you to understand why this matters. She gestured around the lobby. These people, your staff, they didn't know who I was. They just watched what happened. Watched how you treated someone you thought didn't matter. That kind of judgment leaves a mark, and I don't let it spread. Stephen's shoulders sagged. He looked smaller now, lost. Marlene gently motioned toward the back office. He didn't resist. The door closed behind him with a muted click. A heavy silence filled the room, not awkward, but weighty. Like the air had thickened, Kendra turned to the remaining staff. "I'll address the team in 5 minutes," she said quietly. "Please wrap up with your customers." Then she walked to the far end of the branch and sat down. Alone, for the first time since entering. But this wasn't a moment for reflection yet. There was still something the staff needed to hear. 5 minutes passed slowly. The lobby was quiet. Some customers whispered, others slipped out. A few lingered, curious. The staff said little, but listened with every sense. When Kendra stood again and stepped into the middle of the floor, she wasn't just the woman who had asked for a withdrawal earlier. She was now unmistakably the leader everyone recognized. "Can I speak with the staff?" she asked, her tone softer now. Sherry, Corey, and the other tellers left their stations. Dennis, the assistant branch manager who had remained silent throughout, stepped forward. "I know this morning took an unexpected turn," Kendra began, "but I need to explain something, not just what happened, but why it matters, and why it can't happen again." They listened intently. "I've been with this bank for 23 years. I started as an intern pushing papers, making copies, being ignored by managers who wouldn't even say hello. I learned quickly that some people give respect only when they think you've earned it. And others don't give it unless you look a certain way." Her eyes flicked to Sherry, who looked like she might cry. Corey straightened his back. "When I came in today, I wasn't trying to test anyone. I just wanted to see how this branch operated, whether our values were more than just words on a poster." She paused, her voice steady but weighted. "What I saw was a manager make a snap judgment. No questions, no confirmation. Just an assumption." Dennis cleared his throat. "Ms. Braxton, if I may, some of us sensed something was wrong, but we didn't know how to step in without crossing a line." "I understand," Kendra replied, "and that's exactly why I'm here. Because what matters isn't just what Steven did, it's how we respond when something goes wrong. Whether it's a client or a colleague." She stepped closer to them. That hesitation, that "I didn't want to overstep" instinct. It's what stops change before it starts. Silence followed. Finally, Corey spoke. "I've only worked here a year. But I've seen managers ignore people. I didn't want to be like that. But I froze. I saw what was happening to you, and I didn't say anything." "You're speaking up now," Kendra said gently. Sherry added, "I knew it felt wrong. But I was scared that backing you up might get me in trouble." "It won't," Kendra assured her. "Speaking up for someone being mistreated is never the wrong choice. Especially in a place like this." One of the senior tellers, Leonard, looked over his glasses. "Honestly, Steven's acted like that before. Just never to someone with authority." The statement hung in the air. "Exactly," Kendra said. "And if he treated me like that, imagine how he's treated others when no one was watching." No one argued. Everyone already knew. She looked around. Real people, real faces. The pulse of the institution, not the ads. Not the branding. Them. "Going forward," she continued, "there will be a formal training session on respectful client interaction and internal conduct. I'll be sitting in on the first one myself." She tapped the floor lightly with her heel. "Because if we can't hold ourselves accountable in here, we have no business asking our clients to trust us out there." A ripple of quiet agreement moved through the group. Heads nodded, shoulders softened. Kendra finished with one last message. "It's not about who you think someone is. It's about giving everyone the same dignity you'd give if you knew they could make decisions about your career tomorrow." But there was still one final thing to say, something for the whole company. The team meeting wound down with a few handshakes, some quiet exchanges, and thoughtful expressions. No one clocked out early. No one made jokes. Kendra didn't leave immediately. Instead, she walked to the break room, sat at a small round table near the vending machine, and pulled out her phone. Not to check emails, just to think. She kept replaying it all. If she'd sent an assistant instead, if she'd arrived in a suit, flanked by executives, none of it would have happened. Steven would have offered her coffee, rolled out the red carpet, smiled, and nothing would have changed. She remembered a letter from a few months back from a woman in Flagstaff. The complaint had described being dismissed by a branch manager who wouldn't even hear her out. The investigation said protocol was followed. But something about that letter stayed with Kendra. It wasn't what the manager said, it was how quickly he decided the customer didn't belong. Back then, she couldn't prove anything. Today, she didn't have to. A knock pulled her from her thoughts. Roland stepped in and closed the door. You okay? He asked. Yeah. Just thinking, she said. I've worked with you a long time, Roland said. I've never seen you let someone go in the middle of a branch like that. I did not plan to, she said. Then why? Because I needed them to see what accountability looks like. No memos. No transfers. Just the truth, right in front of them. He nodded slowly. Some folks upstairs might say you made it personal. She met his gaze. It was personal. And if they do not understand why, they are part of the problem. He did not argue. After a pause, he asked, do you think he would have treated me the same way? She did not hesitate. You wear a suit. You are 6'3". You carry a vice president badge. He would have rolled out the welcome mat. Roland nodded. They sat in silence for a moment. You think the staff got the message? He asked. They did, she replied. But more importantly, they felt it. And that sticks longer than words. He stood. Want me to handle notifying the other branches? I will do it myself. You planning visits? Eventually, she said, smiling faintly. Might even leave the suit at home again. He grinned. Remind me to be extra polite to walk-ins, she chuckled. You are safe. Once he left, she took one last look around. The old bulletin board. The stale coffee pot. The muffled conversations outside the break room. This place was not just about transactions. It was a mirror of who they were when no one was watching. Before leaving, Kendra asked for a quick internal announcement. Nothing formal, just a few final words. Hi, this is Kendra Braxton. Thank you all for your patience and professionalism today. Before I head out, I would like to say one more thing. Meet me in the lobby if you have a moment. It did not take long. Employees gathered. Some leaned against desks, others lingered in the back. Even the security guard came in. All eyes were on her. Kendra stood without notes or a script. This morning could have just been a bad memory. Something you tried to forget on your drive home. But it will not be, because today mattered. A few people shifted, paying closer attention. When I came in, I did not look like the person you have seen in company videos. And I did that on purpose. I needed to see what happens when no one is performing. When it is just a regular day and a regular customer. She paused. What I got was honesty, unfiltered, and yes, painful. But also revealing. She scanned the room. Some of you froze. Some of you hesitated. That is human. But now you have seen what silence allows. And I hope you have also seen what courage creates. Sherry stood beside Corey. Leonard looked at his shoes. Dennis had his arms folded tightly behind his back. We talk a lot about leadership, usually in the context of metrics and meetings. But real leadership, she smiled gently. It looks like opening a door for someone who's having a bad day. It looks like speaking up when a colleague steps out of line. It looks like not being a bystander. She let that settle before continuing. Sometimes, leadership means doing the hard thing in public because people are watching. And in that moment, you're teaching them something, either fear or courage. She took a final breath. Stephen won't be returning. That wasn't an easy choice, but it was necessary. Because when moments like today are ignored, they become routine, and routine becomes policy. She smiled, not the one from a press release, but something real, familiar, human. I'll be visiting other branches in the coming months, not to test anyone, but to listen. And yes, sometimes I'll dress just like I did today. A ripple of warm laughter spread. And if you ever find yourself unsure how to treat someone, ask yourself this. Would I treat them the same way if I knew they could walk into a boardroom tomorrow and make decisions about my job? If the answer is no, then it's not the right way to treat them at all. A quiet stillness filled the room. Thank you for listening, she finished. And thank you for staying open to learning. That's how we grow, not just as a bank, but as people. With that, she picked up her purse, nodded once, and walked out the door. No spotlight, no fanfare. Just a leader who reminded everyone what respect looks like when the suits are off, and the truth is in full view.